Hey babes, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Alina, and I'm so glad you're back. Today we're doing something a little different. Yes, I'm beating my face, but I'm also gonna have a real conversation with you about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So grab a snack, maybe some setting spray, because this is gonna be part glam, part TED Talk, and maybe some group therapy. Okay, so let's get into it. So I've already moisturized, so I'm good in that regard. I'm gonna put my base on my face. How's everybody doing? I'm starting out with just my eye base. Again, a MAC product, 24-hour extended eye base. Does it last 24 hours? No. Is it helpful for someone like me with eyes that tend to water, or I get real greasy and it starts to crease in my crease? Yes. But does it last as long as they say? No. And I'm gonna put Painterly over this, and today we're doing a really pretty green eye look, I think. It's like a teal maybe, I don't know. It's cute. I'll show you what it looks like in a second. It's gonna be fun, and we're just gonna have ourselves a cute little conversation about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. We're doing glamour for the dolls today. Glamour. You know, I've been listening to, or I guess watching this one influencer named Luscious Massacre, and she has me dying. So funny. And I wish I was like that charismatic. I'm not. I don't think that I am. I think I'm fairly just kind of vanilla. But she is hilarious, and I can't get enough. Because I just think she is just so funny. So anywho, I wanted to talk to you guys about being an entrepreneur and why I've even tried, and what my attempts, I guess, have been before. You know, most entrepreneurs generally are a different kind of person, right? They don't necessarily want to work for anybody else. They would prefer to work for themselves. In my career, I have had many opportunities to work within administrative roles for people in which I just genuinely did not enjoy, that or they were just terrible people. So anyways, I became an entrepreneur because I've always wanted to work for myself. I have been lucky enough to hold some roles in my career that were great. I love what I do. I've learned a lot along the way, but I've always had this inherent calling to own my own business or have something that's all for me and to myself. And early on, working for employers who gave me an opportunity because of the way I looked, because I was passable, because I made them comfortable. I didn't act crazy. I wasn't, I was very demure. We didn't go to the office with our pudanda out, right? Very demure, very mindful, okay, if you will. And that worked for me. And I think I've touched on it in other videos as well, about that sort of mindset and thinking, especially being a trans person, coming up in these roles that weren't traditionally for someone like me, and I didn't necessarily have the background for, but ultimately learned on the job, and which is why I've held like a few different roles that aren't traditionally maybe for women like me. But inherently, I've always known now that that's a problem, right? Like that is certainly an issue, because I can't just be the only one. I'm sure at the time, I've always thought, like, I'm sure there's other people out there like me trying to make it, but it's so hard for, women like me to be accepted in society and to be taken seriously and given the responsibility of some of the roles in which I've held. And I was lucky enough to do so. So that's why I say I'm always very blessed in what I've been able to experience thus far. However, although I was good at making white people comfortable, or heteronormative people comfortable, I always wanted to have something for myself because I knew ultimately that is what I needed to do. I needed to find something for myself that was only for me and that I can build and I can call upon and use as a stepping stone towards where I ultimately want to be and what I want to do in life. And so for me, I always had this need, this drive, this want, this ability to run my own business. I wasn't sure what my business would be, but I always knew I wanted one. And even back in high school, I remember thinking, well, it was after high school actually, because I had friends who became strippers after high school. And they were, they would complain about how the company treated them or how, they didn't like certain aspects of the job. And so I always understood the power of being your own boss and always wanted to, but I just I never knew exactly what that would look like or how I would get to that point. Again, always worked for people who were just terrible in character. And I knew that, I had just a different set of values. And I knew that because of my experience and and just being treated like shit, even though I was given the opportunity, still being treated like shit, I always knew that I wanted to create opportunities for people like me and women in general, so that way we can make our own decisions and we don't have to be subject to their own biases, right? Or their implicit bias. It was always important for someone like me to think about the future and how I could possibly grow it into something for myself, or what that looked like and how I was going to execute on it. And really, that took me a long time to be comfortable enough in my career, in my abilities, and what I brought to the table. As a trans woman, there aren't very many opportunities out there. And so you're always sort of struggling to kind of work super hard to get half as far. That's just a person of color's experience, but it's especially true for trans women of color. And I can't even imagine what it's like for Black trans women of color. But for me, who is, a Mexican woman of color, it's always been a struggle. And, a lot of people don't take you seriously and don't really want to provide you or give you any sort of opportunities. And so you've really had to kind of make the opportunity for yourself. When me and Jose started thinking about what it is that we want to do and what sort of company we want to build, we came up with t-shirts and sweaters and stuff, and really we thought more along the lines of being that sort of company that can cater to other companies who are looking for branded merchandise. And so that was the idea behind starting California Black Label. And then it kind of evolved into doing more stuff for retail, just because we didn't have those sort of connections early on. And so trying to establish a name for ourselves and get people to know who we are and what we bring to the table and what we offer, it made sense to do some retail and pop-ups especially. Pop-ups are a $10 billion industry. They're huge, especially today. I don't know. I know I've always seen them out there prior to us getting into this industry. I've always seen them. I've always thought oh, that's, love a good, pop-up situation where people can come and have good eats and maybe buy from vendors and whatever it may be. I never thought I'd be one, but that is where we initially started and where we've seen a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity in our first and second year. Now, those are a lot of work, being out there for hours on end, paying a fee up front, and not knowing if you're going to be successful while you're there. There's a lot of risk involved. And for the most part, I think if you believe in yourself and you know what you're doing and you have good products you can do well. But it is for sure a risk, and it's a lot to carry. And then the other portion of that is like just running a business in itself is super hard, which is why we've been focusing this year on making sure to grow our online presence and get people to move to the website versus seeing us out on the streets, because we're trying to get away from that. We're trying to now establish something that is a little bit more conducive to our schedules and isn't burning us out so much that, you know, it's just taking a toll on us. You know, I think I've mentioned on this, on here before, but I used to do makeup for brides and for special occasions and like quinceañeras and like a few other things, like, you know, if someone had something coming up that they wanted to get all pretty for, I would be the one in which they called. And that was a form of entrepreneurship, but I just didn't take it seriously, I suppose. Not that I didn't take it seriously, but I just didn't pursue it probably in the way that I should have. I was good at what I did. I wasn't good at marketing myself, and it was embarrassing. Like it was, I don't like to have to tell people, this is what I do. This is why you should hire me. You should hire me because of this. I hate that about selling and, you know, creating business or getting business for your company or whatever it is. That has always been like I've never wanted to be a part of that. I never wanted to be a salesperson and be that voice that is like trying to get people to buy from me. But I realize now that that's super important. And part of being an entrepreneur is being able to either make the connection for somebody and let them know what you do, so that way they can either support you or utilize your business. But I was never good at that back in the day. I never promoted myself. I never gave out cards. I never, like, if someone heard about me, it was usually like word of mouth, and I was very proud of that. I was very proud that, people would ask about me and my abilities because they heard it from somebody else who was happy with what it is that I did. And I think that works to an extent, right? Like it definitely like works to an extent. However, I could have gotten on YouTube. I could have made cards. I could have talked about my services more. I could have done different beauty industry things in order to get people to know who it is that I am. But I was just in a space at that time that didn't really resonate for me, and I didn't want to do that, and so I didn't. And I went back to working in an office, and I went back to doing exactly what I already knew how to do, because I didn't have to sell myself there. Like I had the ability, I had the talent there, and when you're working for somebody, you don't have to sell yourself. Like they're the ones who's selling your business or who's selling the business. You're just a cog in the wheel, right? And so for me, that was more comfortable, and I recognize now that that's like not the way to do it. Which is why, I'm starting this YouTube channel and sitting here talking with you about my business while I do my makeup, because I think I can do two things at one time. And I think I'm talented in this regard, as well as being able to share my experience, whether it be life experience or our work experience or lessons that I've learned over the years or entrepreneurial experience. And so that's why I'm here. I'm here now because I've realized, after it's taken me quite some time, but I realize now that no one is going to come and just say, oh my God, I seen you one time and you're just so amazing. Here's all my money. and, you know, would love to work with you. That doesn't happen, right? And so you have to be able to sell yourself and to create a space where people understand who you are, what you bring to the table, and especially as an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to market yourself in a way that is conducive to helping your business grow. And so that is why I wanted to have this conversation today, because I think it's really easy to get into a space and where you are just afraid of what people think, where you don't know if you're doing the right thing, where you don't want to be vulnerable and on camera in the same way. But I urge you as an entrepreneur, if this makes sense for you and your business and just who you are personally, do it. Do it as much as possible. Because I learned from me, I waited too long to be my biggest supporter. And now, although I am like afraid of what that means and what that looks like, and sometimes I have to be cringy and sometimes I have to be embarrassed about the things that I'm putting out there, but ultimately what it does is help build that sort of familiarity and people getting familiar with not only just who you are, but your business as well, and then liking you and therefore wanting to spend on your business. And as an entrepreneur, that is my biggest lesson I think that I've learned so far, is just being vulnerable and letting people in, and maybe not selling to them all the time, but being exactly who you are and being open and honest, and you know, that way they can get a feel for you and they fall in love with you and your brand and the person that you are, and then want to support you. As an entrepreneur, you must learn the art of the pivot. Pivoting in your business is so important. We are just starting to realize what these tariffs and this administration is doing to small business. You know, who was expecting this treacherous piece of shit in office to be what it is? I guess we should have known. Although I think we were just, at least me, I was hoping that we had moved past this era of elevating terrible people to positions of power that they didn't work for, they don't deserve, and they certainly abuse. I have seen that sort of behavior for years in business. For years. I've worked for people who are just laughable now. But as an entrepreneur, it's important to be able to pivot, and it's important to be able to know what's going on and what that means for your business and what you need to do, at a certain time in a certain space that you can make it successful and do what's necessary for your business to make it through like hard times, challenging times, whatever that may look like. You just have to learn what it means to pivot and how to do that successfully. And so it's not easy being an entrepreneur. It's not for the faint of heart either. I've tried to explain this to others, because everybody, I think a lot of people have this misconception like, oh, you're working for yourself and you're making money and, things must be great. It must be nice to be able to afford this, that, and the other. But really, in all actuality, it takes a lot. Like, it takes a lot to be an entrepreneur. It takes the gall, it takes the audacity, it takes the tenacity. And in being able to pivot, there is an art form to it. There's a way in which you want to go about it. And sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. But that's all a part about being an entrepreneur and figuring shit out. When we first started California Black Label, we didn't really know what we were doing. We had a plan. And for sure, there's something to be said about planning and making sure you have a business plan and organizing and structuring and making sure you have the tools necessary and the knowledge necessary in order to make things work in the way that they should. So that way you're starting yourself off on a good foot. But we didn't have the same understanding that we do now. You know, we kind of came into this with a little bit of knowledge, but nowhere near what we thought was needed in order to make things successful. And to an extent, I don't feel like we've reached a level of success in the way that I dreamed about it. So you have to define what success means for you. And maybe it's just the fact that you started the business. Maybe it's the fact that you are doing something different that you always wanted to do but were too scared to try. Maybe success for you looks like a certain dollar amount every month that's coming in, and either whether or not you're able to live off of that, but it's maybe able to sustain the business. You have to define what that is for yourself. Being able to pivot and figure out how to make things successful when they're not working is a big part of being an entrepreneur, because not everything is going to work. And I think that's the biggest part of being an entrepreneur and learning what that really means. You can be an entrepreneur and have not succeeded at certain things that you tried, but at least you tried and then you didn't give up, right? That is where I'm at. You know, I'm learning to pivot. I'm learning to pivot in the way that I operate. And maybe it's not just things that I post on social media, but maybe it is building a YouTube channel so that way it will ultimately benefit my business in the long run, because I'm talking about my business. People are getting familiar with me and what I do, and maybe they're interested in me initially and like seeing like the, you know, what I have to say and what I'm talking about. But then eventually maybe that converts into them actually going and like looking at what it is that we sell and maybe being interested in buying from us or using us for their company merch. Try things as much as possible, so that way you don't leave any stone unturned, especially when you're talking about your business, because you ultimately want it to be successful. And you know, I don't like being on camera per se. It's not like the thing that I was thinking I was going to be getting into this year, but having heard Gary Vee and Arlan Hamilton and Katie Steckley and a few other influencers, having heard that this is a great space in order to help grow your presence and your brand and get people to know who you are, I'm doing what I know is necessary for my business. I'm sure there's a million people doing makeup talking about their business right now. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Talking about products that they love, talking about things that they have done or want to do. I would love to be an affiliate marketer for MAC, since I use so much of their product and have for many, many years. But those people never gave me a goddamn job. And I don't know why I would expect them to give me one now. But it's nice to think about. It would be nice if they did. So MAC, if you're watching, girl, you know where to find me, okay? CABlackLabel.com. CABlackLabel on all the handles, okay? I have to admit, being on this journey of creating YouTube content and social media content and getting a feel for what that means and how to do it and highlighting our culture in all of the different aspects that we exist in and what we hold true and near and dear to our heart. Being an entrepreneur provides you that space in order to do what's important to you without having to consider someone else's views or bias or inability to understand why certain things are important. That's what I love about being an entrepreneur, is being able to make my own way and make my own decisions about what's important and what isn't. Because, again, I have been in businesses, I have worked for people who are not who they say that they are. I have worked for men and women who are really not that great at people. I'm trying to be the exact opposite of what I've been shown in my career, and how leaders are not actual leaders. They're just in charge. Real leadership comes from experience and knowing that there's something greater than yourself that you need to be working towards. And I think I have worked for many a companies, many a leader, many a boss, someone in charge, someone's favorite, who didn't deserve to be there, but was, and inherently did not have that understanding. And instead ruled by fear or some other semblance of whatever they thought that they should be. Moving forward, I'm going to do everything possible in order to make sure that my business is successful, even in those times where I don't necessarily want to. So, we gotta do what we gotta do, girl. Part of being an entrepreneur. Part of being an entrepreneur is doing the things you don't want to do. Comfort zones are cute until they start choking your dreams. Remember that. As a small business, I think it's important to understand and what it looks like for the future and what that might potentially mean for your business. Now, we are essentially a retail store, an e-commerce store. And in the last 5 years, small business has grown by 13.5%, which is insane and amazing for the economy, because Main Street is what really drives our economy here in the States, not Wall Street. Small businesses, small mom and pops are what really drive business and what really make us a successful nation. The fact that women-owned businesses have increased by 24% and Black-owned businesses have increased by 14% in just the last couple years is so inspiring and so important to the health of our economy, our nation, this country that we all love. And so if you, as an entrepreneur, have gotten this far in these last 5 years, you're a part of that success. And I think it's really important that we all stick together and try and maintain the progress that we have made thus far. But we can't do that alone. That has to happen in collaboration. It has to happen with respect. It has to happen internally and externally. We need to be supporting our women-owned business, our Black-owned businesses. That's the only way that we're going to succeed. And maybe I'm just preaching or not saying anything at all. Be the judge. But I think it's important to recognize where the data is, where we stand, and how we're all interconnected. And so that is why I am trying so hard to grow our business online. And so e-commerce for us makes the most sense because it is dominating. It's not always as feasible to do a brick and mortar whenever you're facing sales online that are up like 15% from just 5 years ago. That's just the way of the world. Again, the art of the pivot. But there's so much that goes into that. There's so much that goes into it. And so as I build and as I get more familiar with how to make things successful as an e-commerce business, I will be looking into how I can grow on these platforms. And now that we're facing potential tariffs on the horizon, or maybe at the time that you guys see this, it will already have taken into effect. But I am just a little worried about what that means moving forward, especially in this economy, with what's going on, tariffs and all, recession and inflation and all. And I'm not even sure what that means for our business either. You know, like right now, there's a big boycott going on for a few of the brands that we have utilized for customers, rightfully so. I don't think that it's a bad thing. I think companies who do not share the value of making sure that they are standing 10 toes down for diversity and inclusion and equity should absolutely be boycotted, but that doesn't help our business. So lots of unknowns. That is why it's important to pivot as an entrepreneur. Hopefully we will be okay, but if not, I might be on here telling you about how we had to shut down. I might be on here telling you about how hard it has been and we can't go on anymore. Who knows? I don't want to do that. At a certain point, you have to be realistic about where you're at and how things are affecting you and your business and your mental health and your ability to live and your ability to work and your ability to do what's necessary for yourself. It would be amazing if everybody went on right now and went to go buy a t-shirt for $55. And they're $55 because that is what they're worth. They're embroidered, okay? If you don't want a $55 shirt, there are cheaper shirts on there. Not as cute, but cheaper. But it would be amazing if everybody who saw this video took the time to check out our website and bought a hat, bought a t-shirt, bought a bag to help support us. But I understand if you can't, because girl, this economy, honey, I get it. I get it, girl. I know the feeling, sis. But we appreciate everybody who has supported us, who's trusted us enough to do their branded merch or bought a product from us or allowed us to pitch them on the idea of doing something. I'm appreciative because I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, but here we are, girl. What does Dory and Corey say? If you shoot an arrow real high and it hits the moon, hooray for you. Only a few of you are going to know about that one. Only a few of you. Anywho, resilient brands pivot by emphasizing value, storytelling, and experience. And we trying, girl. I don't always hit the mark. I don't always get it right. And I might not ever get it right, but I am trying. If you're feeling like your business isn't where you want it to be, girl, same. Okay? As an entrepreneur now, you're building in public, and that's brave. It's a brave thing to do. And not everybody has the ability in order to do that. So give yourself some grace. Be our biggest supporter and keep reminding yourself that as long as you're trying, you are succeeding. Because there's a lot of people who ain't even tried yet. They don't even want to. The real work is done in those times whenever things aren't going well. And whenever you aren't seeing the success that you're wanting, in those times where there is no money coming in, we're all just trying to succeed. So don't beat yourself up. Love on yourself. Rest assured that you are not the only one who's experiencing what's going on these days. We're all in this together, and if you need help, always call upon your community, because people are out there and they want to help. They just don't know how. People are there telling people behind your back how amazing you are. So rest assured, if you did the work, it's working in your favor. However, if you didn't do the work, girl, then you got some work to do. You can't take from the bank without putting into the bank. Whether it be the cultural bank, whether it be the karma bank, whether it be the social media bank, you can't take what you haven't given. And I believe that what you put out, you get back in direct proportion. I think that's the Newman's law, or I forget what that is. Someone's law. That's what Oprah taught me. Okay, Oprah said this. You have to be mindful of what you've done, where you're at, how much you've put in, and what that looks like coming back to you. Entrepreneurship is trial and error, and a sprinkle of delusion. But do it for you, because it's what you want to do. And sometimes it's gonna work, and sometimes it's not gonna work. Girl, we just live and we learn. We live and we learn. Trying to grow this channel, honey. And I don't know exactly how to do that, but I certainly am trying. And maybe it won't happen right away. I might not get any views on this video, but I'll be right back here next week with a new video talking about something, girl. And so I'm hoping that it resonates. I'm hoping that you guys like it. I'm hoping that in some way, somehow, you are interested in tuning in and telling your friends and bringing them along. Maybe you just find me entertaining. Maybe you find me to be informative. Or maybe you just talking shit, bitch. Just kidding. Either way, thanks for watching. Okay, guys, this is the look. I am gonna go do my hair, and then I will be right back. And you know what the hair is gonna look like, honey. It certainly isn't gonna look like this. All right, bitches, I'm back. You wanna find the looks, honey? Well, here you go. Just kidding. Okay, again, 3 barrel curls on each side of my head. I love a good middle part. This wasn't about the makeup, it was about us. So don't give up. Thank you for watching. Make sure to follow us, like, subscribe, do all the things. I'm trying to grow this channel, honey. Share it with your mama, share it with your pastor, share it with your doctor, share it with everybody, especially an entrepreneur. And just know, if you're building something now, I see you. I know where you're at. I feel you, girl. Leave a comment. Let me know what part of the entrepreneurship journey that you are in. And don't forget to share, like, subscribe. Again, please help me grow this channel. I'm trying my best, girl. Again, don't let things discourage you. Business is tough. Being an entrepreneur is tough. There are things in which that's going to happen that we cannot control. No matter what season you're in, you're planting seeds now, and maybe right now it's giving broke and brave, but give it some time, and maybe later on it will be paid and proud. Keep your head up. Follow us on all social media, California Black Label, CABlackLabel, and check out our website. Our website is there. Please watch any of the other videos we have on YouTube. All the valid watch hours help us to get to our goal of being able to monetize this channel, because we're not currently monetized, but that is the goal. So please, if you like this look, if you liked what we talked about, if you want to hear more, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you the next time you hit play.